welcome to part 5, and yes, I've still got the headphones on. Okay, so we're going to look at covering, and those who are regulars at the Baron flights will know I do not like covering. I sooner get somebody else to do it. Anyway, we have to work with what we got. Okay, so I've made a start. Now, I'm not saying that I know the best way, I just know the way that I know. Okay, and different kinds of models need different ways and techniques to suit that model depending on their shape. So what you have here is a semi-torpedo shape. A lot of people say it's a shark shape. Okay, which it is. It's kind of like a shark. But you have this roundness. Now, if you try to sheet this all in one go, and I've seen Cliff Harvey do this, right, all in one go, and even he had to admit, you get the odd wrinkle. I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm doing it my way. So what I'm doing is I'm doing this almost panel by panel. It's longer, it's more time consuming, but you will get a fair. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm in my old age, I'm losing the will to speak English. You'll get a fair finish, okay? And I'm just after a fair finish. I'm not after that professional look, because there's a lot of people that are a lot better at this than me. So if you want to see how to do it absolutely pucker, then go and watch them, and then come back and then see if I'm doing it wrong or right, okay? So I'm doing this almost panel by panel. So I've started with this part here, okay, just this part here. So what I've done is I'm using tissue paste glue, okay. This cost £8.75. That's rather expensive, isn't it? But you can use just normal PVA glue, and you water it down into a very, very thin, not even a paste really. It's like almost like water. Okay, and what I've done is I've cut a shape using my scissors, okay, out of the tissue, which is here, okay, and I'll cut the shape out, and then I will use my finger and put the glue around it. Now, what you don't want to do is do every single, I've done it again, I can't remember the name of things, stringer. You don't want to do every stringer, because you want the tissue to stretch. So you just do it on the outside, okay? And then you let that go off. Yeah? And it fine, you just pull it slightly with your fingers, and it gets taut. And I'm going to wet this down later, okay? So I started there, and I've done a little bit at the back. I may redo this bit, because I'm not really sure how this bit should be, but I've done that for now. I can always cut it out. But what you must do is you must have a new blade. You must have a new blade, and you probably have to change it a couple of times as well while you're doing this. That's topical tip number 1. Okay. So then what I've done is I've come to the back here, put this back piece on, then I've done this part and this part. And for now, that's the underneath done. Right, so we can flip it over. So I decided to do this side first. So I've done this panel to here. Okay, just cut it out, put a bit of the tissue paste on, rub it over with my finger, put it on. Then I've cut this shape out here. Okay, and all you need to do is just lay the tissue over, just cut a piece out larger than what you need, and just go over it with the pencil, so you've got that line, okay. But you want it bigger than what it is, okay? And then again, you put the tissue paste around it, and you lay the tissue on top. And once it's gone off, okay, now there's 2 ways of doing this. One topical tip I gave to Cliff, and he uses it, and he swears by it, and that is you get your, say your 800, okay, glass paper, and you just rub it like that. and the tissue paper is so light and thin, you can just rip it off basically, and it goes to that shape. All right, or you can use the knife. If you use the knife, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but you're running a risk of going into the balsa, cutting the balsa. Okay, if you're really skilled at using the knife, like a surgeon or something, then fine, fair enough. And then I've done this part here up to the tail, and I've stopped, and I did the opposite side. Okay, then I've done this part here back to the tail, same the other side. Now I'm going to move the camera to show you the next part. I'm actually going to show you what I do. All right, so if you want to fast forward, fine, I don't blame you. We're going to do along here, down here, and along here. Okay, so I'm going to twist the camera down slightly. Okay, let's have a look, see what we can see. That should be okay, I think. Now, just wet my finger. I've already cut a piece to shape using my knife and my metal ruler. Don't use a plastic ruler, use a metal ruler, because what you'll end up doing is shaving off the side of your plastic ruler. So you got to use a metal one. And I've cut this to shape. So I'm now going to offer it up to see if it fits. Okay, which it does. So that fits there. Okay, I'll try and keep my fingers out of the way. Okay, so then we get the tissue paste. Okay, and I'm just going to put a light amount on here. That's the top, isn't it? Yep. Just a light amount along there, down the side, along there, like that. Don't touch these stringers, you don't need to. It'll stretch over that. Okay, just rub your finger over it. And in effect, what you're doing is you're kind of doing how it's done in real life. You know, you get panels. Now, because you've got the sticky stuff on your finger, you do plonk that on. Like so. And then just bring it down. Stretch it as best as you can with your finger. That is probably too much of an exact fit. There, you see, I mucked it up already. Got that there. So what I'm going to do there is let that dry, and I'll cut that out with the knife, and I'll just do that little panel all on its own. See, I cut it too exact, trying to be clever. So because I know I've got to go back to that, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the outside, like that. In fact, this is probably a good thing, because I'll show you how to get out of it. That'll soak through the tissue. Once that's dried, I can cut that out. Yeah. And that's basically what I've done. And that will then dry, it'll go taut. You still have a little bit of time left to just slightly rub it with your thumb or whatever finger you have. And that will dry. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to show you how I repair that, and then I should carry on with the rest of the tissue in. Okay, I'll edit it here. Okay, so I've used the knife, I've cut that little panel out, I've put the tissue paste on, ready, and I've cut out a small piece of paper, slightly oversized, okay. I'm going to drop that on like that, okay, and I'll just ease it around, use my tweezers. Where'd my tweezers go? There you go. like that. And that, when it dries, will become almost invisible. And that's the technique that you use. You know, if you have a crash or something goes through the tissue like a twig, which does happen. You have, depending where it lands, there's always a bloody twig there, goes through your tissue. That's what you do. You cut it out, and then cut a new piece, and then just glue it on, and then carry on as you normally would with your. Once it's dried, you wet it down, and then put some. In fact, you don't even have to wet it down really if you're just doing a repair, and put your shrinking dope on. You have to use shrinking dope for this sort of thing because you're going around the frame and you want it to shrink on. And I'm just going to let that go off now, and that's how you get over stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm going to carry on now. I'm going to do this part here. Okay, I don't want to bore you to death doing the whole thing, so I'll just carry on for a bit. Okay, so we are now at that point where the rest of the fuselage is now covered, and what you need now is an atomizer. Doesn't matter what kind of atomizer it is. I stole this one off my good lady. Well, no, I didn't actually. She gave it to me. Filled it full of water and, fine spray. What you do, you fine spray it all the way over, okay, all the way over, and that then puts a bit of tension into the tissue. Now I've done this twice just to make sure it's absolutely as taut as I can get it before I apply the dope. Now I will be applying the dope next probably, but I'm about to move on to the covering the wings. Now the covering of the wings, in one sense, is a bit simpler if you can understand, because they don't have all these round bends and everything else. But it does have odd shapes because a lot of models will have a straight wing. But what I have done is I've put on an extra leading edge here. Okay, and the reason I've done that is to enhance the shape of the wing, because what happens is with a lot of models, and you cover them in tissue, is they sort of sag in between each rib. It's just something it does. So I decided to put a top covering leading edge on there. There's a proper name for this, but I can't think what it is. So in the comments, if you can tell me what the proper name for that is, I'd be most grateful. But why have I stopped there? Well, the reason I stopped there is because if you offer the wing up, okay, just gonna get this in right. There we go. You'll see that it's rib 2 goes in line with the fuselage or the fuzz, if you like. So it's pointless putting that piece in. So it'll be the same for the other wing. So now they're ready now for the tissue covering, and I will go into that in the next edit. So I'm leaving that there for now. We're coming back for that. It's getting late here now, so I'm going to do this maybe tomorrow and see how we get on. Thank you. Right, so covering the wings. So we want to get covering the wings in a pretty good state, and this is how I do my wings. Now this has just been watered down now, and it's pretty tight, so that's how you want to get it. So how do I get to that? Well, I'm going to show you with the opposite wing. So with the opposite wing, you can just do a rough shape so you know how big your paper's going to be. This is actually drawn out for that wing there, but never mind, we can always turn it over like that, and we can lay the wing on and make sure we've got plenty of paper and excess around it. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, you'll find that with the paper, if you hold it up to the light, you can see like sort of a grain going across. You want the grain going this way, if you can see it, that is. And then we're going to go back to the trusty tissue paste. And what we're going to do, you always do the bottom first, by the way. It just works out well if you do that. And we're going to put a little bit of paste all the way around the edge. Okay, like that. Make sure the camera's picking it up. And just grip the wing by the middle so you don't get glue all over the place. Okay, I'll put the top back on. Then lick your finger and go all the way around so that glue is spread evenly. Okay, a little bit on the leading edge there. Only the slightest amount on the leading edge. Should I say the front leading edge. Make sure that wing root is well glued. Like that. Now, you can, if you want to, just go and just lay it straight on the paper. It does work. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. Now, what we need to do is get that on and then pull it. We keep stretching it over. Okay, like that. That takes a lot of the work out when you come to use your material. I've done it again. I've lost the will to speak English. You use your what we call banana oil. It smells like bananas. So there you go, and then you just take your thumb, go along those edges, make sure it's absolutely stuck down around the edges. And always working, you see, you got to pull it to the outside when you're doing this. Okay. Now what you don't want to do, you don't want to put any glue on the ribs, because you want this to stretch. If they're stuck to the ribs, you're not going to get that, and you'll probably end up with a wrinkle. Okay. And then once you're happy with that, yeah, what you do, you just let it dry. But what I can show you while it's a little bit wet is when you come to trim this off, what you do is, I've got some, I think this is 1500. I don't think it's going to hurt to just show you this little bit. Trim it off. You pull the paper and then you use a, I think this is 1500, and you just rub that tissue, okay, and you'll find that will cut it. There you go. So you see that cut there? Yeah. It'll cut that more exactly than using a knife. If you use a knife, it's going to go all over the place, and that is the best way I've found of trimming off tissue. Okay, so we're just going to let that go off. Now, what you do then, once you've trimmed it all off, I'm using that method here, you see. Plus the fact that if you use that method, it actually sands the paper down quite nice on the edges as well. Is you get your spray bottle and you wet it all the way down. Now I've already done this wing, so I don't need to do it twice. You wet that down, okay? And then if the sun's shining like it is today, just go and lay it out on the table or on the lawn or something in the sunshine. It takes about 10 minutes, and that'll dry out. Okay, and then you're ready then to do the top wing. Now with the top wing, got some paper. Let's put this wing here to one side. This is one I prepared earlier. So what we're going to do is take a pencil. You don't want to waste too much paper, so you find your straightest edge, and you want to be wider than what the wing is. So we're going to go like this. Okay, just draw around to about roughly an inch. Okay, and you can take your scissors and then just cut that out. Doesn't got to be on the pencil line. Put your tissue to one side. There you go. Okay, just double check you got it almost as you want it. So I'll just take that little bit off there. Okay, so you've now got a rough shape. Okay, and you lay that on, just double check it. All right, so that's your leading edge there. So what we're going to do is return to the tissue paste. Okay, put the scissors to one side for a moment, and we're just going to do what we did with the underneath. I'm just going to start with the wing tip, not for any particular reason, but you've got to start somewhere. Okay, and you just go around the wing root, the leading edge, the trailing edge only, and the wingtip. There you go. You haven't got to put too much on at all. And all you do then, remember to put your top back on, wet your finger, and spread it. Okay, nice and evenly. Spread it around. Make sure it gets everywhere, especially on the absolute trailing edge around your wingtip there. Now you haven't got to do all of this piece, it's just the most forward leading edge. Make sure you get it nice and evenly. You don't want any lumps or bumps. Okay, and this doesn't particularly dry that fast, so you've got time. Double check your wing root. Any excess can be wiped off with your finger. Okay, now you want to get around this area here because that's going to go underneath the fuselage. You're not really going to see much of that. Okay, but you want it to grip it. All right, and we know that this end is the leading edge, and just lay it on. You've got time to lay it over roughly, and then just keep pulling it over like this. Okay, start with the leading edge and the trailing edge and just pull it, not too hard, but just pull it. Okay, get as much of the wrinkles out as you can while it's still pliable. take some extra care around this area here where the wing root is. And now you've got that flat surface, so you've now got to rub your thumb from the middle to the outside, get any tiny little wrinkles out, and then go around the trailing edge. Oh, we just ripped the film paper there a little bit. Quite delicate stuff. Pull that tight. We can repair that. That's not a big thing. Obviously, you don't want to tear it any more than what you have to. Everything's repairable. Okay. Now, go around, running from the inside to the outside, and just making sure now that that paper is glued down. Pull it over as best you can, okay? And then one more tug at the wing root. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're going to let that go off. Put it to one side. Now, how are we doing with the other wing? Yeah, it's just about done, that is. So take the glass paper, go along that edge. So it doesn't take that long to do, not really. There you go. Almost perfect cut on that edge. I'm going to do it lightly. I'm going to put any real pressure on it. And you'll see a little bit more there. More there. And you'll see that comes away. You've got a nice clean edge. Okay, and all you got to do is just go around the rest of it, and that will come out quite nicely. And what we'll do is I'll put the top cover on, and then we'll wet this down, let it dry, and then we'll put on our the dope. That's the word I'm looking for. I couldn't bring it to mind. The dope. We're going to dope it. Okay, and I'll just very quickly skip through that because there's nothing really particularly complicated about it. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to trim all this off now, then wet it down and let it dry out, and I'll edit it there. Okay, so the wings are now covered. They've got the they've been wetted down, and they're drumming out quite well. There you go. Both wings are done. So the only thing left to do now is to put on the clear shrinking dope. Now you want shrinking dope, okay? Not non-shrinking dope, shrinking dope. This has been thinned down with a 50-50 mix with cellulose thinners. Okay, so that's a 50-50 mix. So it should be quite watery, I hope. Now, I did jump ahead a little bit with the fuselage, or the fuzz as I like to call it. That's been doped, and that's come out pretty good. Pretty good. One coat, okay? So that's what it should look like. So now the thing is, you've got to make sure that you're going to do both sides, which I'm going to do at the same time, to rest it up against something. Yeah, some, you know, where you can hold it like that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Now I have a little pot here that I can put my cellulose thinners in to clean the brush off, and that reminds me, yeah, I've got some blue paper for that. So let's get on with it and get this done. It won't take very long at all. Now you do want to make sure you've got some windows open. It can be quite strong on the nose. Okay, and I'm going to try and keep it in one direction if I can. There you go. You'll see that where it's not penetrating, it'll go a little bit white. That goes white because it's not soaked in. So you just put a little bit more on. Yeah, where the white bits are. And you let that go into the paper. Now, you might want to put some surgical gloves on, perhaps. Can stick to your skin. It doesn't harm you. Or at least not as far as I know, anyway. And there you go. See, I don't know whether you can see that. A little bit white. So you've got to get that dope into it. It's going in now. There you go. Okay, we'll turn it over. As you can see, I'm holding it by the edges. There you are. Oh, there's a little hair there off the brush. Get that out. Thought I got that hair. Yeah, you don't want to get any hairs in that. A bit of white there. You are. You could actually, you could apply this with a sponge, which sometimes I'd use the sponge on the fuselage. I just elected to use a brush on the wings because they're fairly flat. I have, on very rare occasions, thinned down the dope so much that I can use it in a atomizer, you know, what we use for the water. But it just lends itself with the brush at the moment. There's a little white bit there, look. It's soaking. And you don't want it too thick. And this is a nice soft brush, and I like to look after this brush. A lot of the times when I'm using fiberglass resin and stuff like that, I usually use cheap brushes from the pound shop because I don't bother to clean them. I just throw them away. Spend more time cleaning them than you do using them, and they cost pennies. But with this brush, I don't know what the hairs are made of, but it's a nice soft brush, so I do clean it. There we go. So it goes semi-translucent. And then that'll dry out like a white, dry out white. So we're going to rest that on something. That's what are we going to use? Oh, I know what we use. Use the block. Stand that up. There we go. So what we're going to do now Okay, just temporarily put that lid on. I'll show you why in a minute. Cellulose thinners, little drop in the bottom of there. Okay, and we just clean our brush with that. It only takes a few seconds. There you go. And what we're going to do, we're not going to waste that. Whatever you do, do not smoke while you're doing things like this. You'll make yourself ill or set something on fire. Okay, let that dry out. Because instead of wasting that, because it's got cellulose in it, the dope in it, I'm going to pour that into the tin, and that will thin out the dope even more, because you don't want it too thick. There you go. So we'll just wait for those to go off. They're almost looking dry already. And then what we'll do is, yeah, we'll have to see how the Juno engines fit onto the wing, and probably finish these off. They need a bit of sanding either end, see how they fit. And then I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do after that. Do I seal these and then glue them onto the wing, or do I glue the wing onto the fuzz and then glue these on? Not quite sure. I must try and remember to weigh this stuff, by the way, so we get an idea of how much things weigh, because we want to get things as light as possible. Although I've added a leading edge onto the wing. So I'm going to edit it there, let these go off and have a bit of a think about it. Okay, and I think that's probably long enough to say this is the end of part 5, because we've done the tissuing and the doping and everything else. So yeah, I think we'll end it there, the end of part 5. So there'll be a part 6 where we're going to look at the engines and the wings going onto the fuzz. This has been sealed with sanding sealer, so that will probably get glued on. Maybe I'll look at assembling the aircraft now, and then prepping it for paint. And obviously we've got to try and fit the canopy and paint the canopy and everything. So maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, so if you've enjoyed it, and I don't know why you would, but if you enjoyed it, please press the like button. And I very much value people's comments, because it helps the channel. And people do have inquiring minds and questions sometimes, something I've not covered. And thank you very much for your time, and cheerio.
It's time to say goodbye.